Hey, what's up, MythGuardians? Cool Cat here with another MythGuard deck. Today we are going to be looking at a red-blue extreme budget enchantment deck. It's been pretty prevalent around the gold to mithril ladder with a couple of upgrades, but I'm going to go ahead and post the budget version that I've been working with. It's a little under 4,000 essence, and I have about a 70% win rate over 30 games with this deck, climbing through gold. I played it on my live stream a couple of days ago, but it's very powerful. It can sneak out a lot of dirty wins against some slower opponents, and it can also race extremely well against some quicker opponents. But you know the drill. We'll hop into the deck list and go over some replays with a short conclusion at the end. Alright, so hopping into the deck list, of course, the path and the power. For the path, we went with Rainbow's End. It's a really strong path right now, especially with the coin. It can let you have an insane amount of tempo early on to really get ahead on the board. If you do have the Pursuit coin, we're running about 11 enchantments, so we're pretty much going to get at least one extra draw off of it within the game. I have been considering moving over to Journey of Souls, because the rush minions popping back into your hand is very powerful, and possibly dropping a couple of the weaker enchantments like the Giant Stairway and the Cairn Henge, but you know, we'll get there when we get there. I do use Impel over Infuse, especially in a enchantment-based deck. I think it's very important to be able to move from one enchantment to another to get the most use out of those enchantments, get the most value that you can. A lot of people were running Fuse and aggro decks. I would just rather run Impel. I was running Infuse, but there were too many times where I just wished that I had Impel instead of Infuse, so I did make the switch, and I've been very happy with it. So hopping into the list, where we have our enchantment package, we're running 3 of the Cairn Henge. It's just a really good +1/+1 for 1. 3 of the Demolition Speedway. The overrun is very, very important to have in this deck. You're going to want to burn them down as quickly as possible. This lets you attack through some of the blockers that they put in place. We have 3 of the Giant Stairway. This is a weaker enchantment. It's kind of hard to spend the 5 mana for the +3/+3, but when you do, and you know you can get your value out of it, it can help you close out those more grindy games against the mid-range or slower decks. And then we have 2 of the Red Carnival. This card lets you close out some games that would generally be out of reach. You can trade off a bunch of your rush minions and then go face with like a 8, 10, 12 damage swing on sometimes, which will, you know, really put the game more into your favor. And then we have our regular Red Rush package, 2 of the Trapezes, or 4 of the Trapezes. We have 4 of the Ironbelly Wyvern, 3 Panic Raiders, and Double Wings of Abaddon. This is the only rare in the list. The rest is common and uncommon. But I was trying to replace it so that I could have an even more budget-friendly list, but there really wasn't anything that could compare. The closest I found was the Cyclopean Giant, which is right here. You know, but even that, it's just a little too slow to replace. And then I'll also go ahead and include the Fire Eater into the Rush package, because you can use the effect the turn that it's played, you know, kind of making it a pseudo-Rush card. But it's very strong, the Lurker, and you can deal 1 to anything. Its pings are really good in this game to help you control the board a little more. It makes a lot of 1-drops a lot worse, including things like the Parser Recruits, the Frecky Scouts, the Strogy Pups. That just makes the 1 health minions that much worse to play with. And then we have our early drops. We are running 2 of the Frecky Scouts. These are really good against Cola Box, things that you would have to chase around the board. I'm running 3 of the Iron Flesh Performers, because these hard counter the Fire Eaters with the Armor 1, so they can't get pinged down. And it's also really good protection for your own Fire Eaters as well. You pop the Fire Eaters in lanes 1 or 7, and then pop the Performers in lane 2 or 6 for some really good early game protection. I'm running 2 of the Strogy Pups because Life Tap is really good in aggro v aggro matchups. And then other than that, I am running 2 of the Frecky Huntresses. This is another anti-aggro tool. It's really hard for a lot of aggro decks to deal with. It is kind of weak to the Fire Eaters, but when you are able to go off with the Frecky Huntress, it really seals the games. And then other than that, we have our Panic Raider for card draw. We have our Ichor Feast for card draw. We have the Rainbow's End for more card draw. So it's kind of hard to run out of cards in this deck, you know. But that's not to say it doesn't happen. Of course, there are occasions where you'll run out of cards and you'll be top decking for lethal, which happens very, very often. On my stream, I think I top decked into lethal maybe 5 or so games in a row. And then I'm running 1 copy of Crimson Pact for some spot removal. But that's the list here. Like I said, extremely budget friendly, all common and uncommon except 1 pair of rares and the Wings of Abaddon. So let's go ahead and hop into some replays. Alright, so this first replay is against Le Mighty ASP. They are actually playing the orange-purple control list that I had posted relatively recently with a couple of upgrades. But this deck is just too fast and too quick to really be able to stabilize and use the Peach to heal up as well as he would like. So we're going to drop the Iron Flesh in lane 2 because we have our Fire Eater to drop in lane 1 with the protection. And we also have the correct burn gems, so we're going to drop the Fire Eater there, clear off this Recruiter, and then pass that over to them. We have a lot of gas in our hand. We have double Trapezist, we have our Panic Raider, we have another Fire Eater, we have a Wyvern, and we also have our coin. But they are going to go ahead and ghoul away some of our graveyard, which we don't really care too much. We don't have any sort of recursion. So we're going to go ahead and drop this Panic Raider to the right and start drawing some cards and start pinging their face down. I'm pretty much sacrificing this Fire Eater. It served its job. It cleared off 1 minion. And it'll most likely be able to clear off another with this parry at the gates. But since they played this ghoul over to the left, I'm not too concerned about it, so I'm just going to go ahead and move over to the right and start really taking control of the right side of this board. I'm going to play the other Fire Eater, clear off this parry so we can get the card draw off of the Panic Raider. The Wings of Abaddon is looking really good right now for some extra burn. And we do get our Red Carnival off of the Rainbow, so that extra draw really comes in handy there to filter it out to make sure we're drawing our units over some enchantments. And that Ichor Feast is going to be very, very key in this matchup once we do run out of resources, which looks like it'll happen relatively quickly. We can go ahead and draw 3 more cards, but we are going to just really flood the board here and just push as much face damage as possible. They do seal away all of our Trapezists, and that kind of hurts a little bit, not nearly as much as this play that they make with the Racer and the Heaven and Back. This was a really strong play by them, using that Racer to clear off the remainder of the board. And then they do drop the Recruit there onto Heaven and Back so that they can just really take control of the board by flooding it with tokens. We top deck some more face damage, so we'll go ahead and play that to the right and just really push as much face as possible. They have their other Shadow Racer, or Racer in Shadow, so they clear off our Wyvern. We're not too worried about it. We did get that extra face damage, and that's all that's really there for. With the Frecky Huntress draw, we'll go ahead and play our Ichor Feast. We'll burn the other Ichor Feast, and we'll play our right there in the middle, because that will easily take care of these Recruits. It'll take care of any Racers they play, but they do have the 9-tailed Vixen. But with the Giant Stairway, giving this Alpha Strike minion 5 damage is going to kill that off real easily, and it won't sacrifice that because of the deadly effect with the Alpha Strike. So that'll easily get that transform off right there. So we're pretty happy with that, but they do have seal number 2. So that hurt a little bit, but it also is really tanking their mana. and they're at 6 health. They do have a full board. We're just one big swing away, and with the Wings of Abaddon on the Giant Stairway, we're going to go ahead and run that into the Fragile Sword Saint for 1 damage over lethal. So that's really just shows you how much reach this deck has, how quick it is. We got that lethal on turn 6 against a really hard control deck that was able to stabilize and flood the board, but with the Wings of Abaddon reach, we were able to close out that game. Alright, in this matchup we are going up against Metronomy. He is playing an orange and green control deck. So he's going to try to control the board against our rush aggro focused deck. We do have the initiative going first, but we don't have a 1-drop to take advantage of it, so we're just going to have to pass it over to them. Thankfully, we do have quite a few rush minions to really get that initiative back. They dropped the turn 1 Kolobok, but we're going to go ahead and answer that really quick with our Trapezist. Kolobok in this meta is not very great, I've found, with a lot of the rush going on, a lot of the Fire Eaters going around. But they do drop the Ghoul right there to contest our Trapezist, which, you know, we're going to do the same thing we did last time, just drop, switch right over to the right side of the board and completely ignore that Ghoul. With Metronomy moving into Winter, that's going to make that a 1-for-1 trade, making that Trapezist a 2-for-1. Really outvaluing the control deck here. So they do have their second Kolobok, but that's fine. We have our Fire Eater to drop over to the right to completely negate that. So we're going to drop that, trade off the Iron Flesh into their Born Again, and swing this 2 damage face. We get the Giant Stairway off of a Rainbow draw, so that'll help out a little bit to make sure that we get a minion or spell off the top of our deck as opposed to that Giant Stairway. We're going to go ahead and drop the Carnival under this Fire Eater because we have a pretty clean trade with a ping and the Karen Henge, and then we're going to be able to swing this Fire Eater face for 4 damage. I do like the Fire Eater on Red Carnival. Fire Eaters are always kind of awkward to deal with, so you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're able to get some value at least off of the Red Carnival. They're going to really throw a lot of resources in to contest the right side of this board, but we're going to go ahead and swing in the Wyvern and kill off the Serendipity, and then use the buff to kill off the Ghoul there, and then ping the face on Metronomy. They do rewind hex the right side of the board and then lay down the Hydra, which is perfectly fine. Honestly, that doesn't hurt me too bad because that gives me all the reason to just switch over to the other side of the board. And so we'll go ahead and drop our Wyvern and replay our Fire Eater, ping their face down a little bit more. And then they do have the parry, which is no problem at all. They are in Winter, so our Fire Eater is going to ping that off nice and easy. But they do have the Born Again there. But we top deck our Wyvern so we can set up a really big Carnival swing. Once we burn our Huntress, place the Carnival right under the initial Wyvern. Ping off the Born Again, trade off the Wyvern into the parry, swing face for 9 damage. Which they heal back up to 5, so we are now again 1 off of lethal, assuming everything can go face, and they block off this lane. They seal off our Wyvern. So that's going to hurt a little bit. You know, we don't have as much initiative there as we had previously. But with the top deck of the Panic Raider, we have an open lane in lane 7. Swing that face to draw a card because we are out of cards. And with that second Fire Eater, we're going to go ahead and throw that down and double ping face, leaving them at 1 health. So they have to kill both of these Fire Eaters, or else we're just going to be able to ping them down. So they have to kill off both Fire Eaters and block our Panic Raider to the right, which they don't have the resources for, so they concede right there. And that'll show you, you know, again, how quick this deck is. Another victory on turn 6. And that also goes to show the power of the Red Carnival, swinging for 9 damage on turn 5 off of 1 minion. Also killing 2 of their minions is an extremely strong swing turn. That basically won us the game right there. And that is the deck. You know, it's a very cheap, very, very powerful budget option as far as, you know, decks go. Just under 4,000 dust, I think, 4 or 5,000 dust. It's very, very cheap. There are a lot of upgrades you could make. For example, one upgrade is going to be Braggy. Braggy's a very, very strong blue card. You could also upgrade into a Kara Morning Wives, another strong blue tempo card. You could also add in the Oak of Odana, as well as something like Magnus. If you want to slow it down a little bit, make it a little grindier, you could also add in a Stairway to Hades as well. There's a few, like I said, there's a lot of budget options. I'll go ahead and post the list that I've actually been running with down in the description below, along with this budget list. I did add in a couple of those mythic replacements that I'd mentioned previously, but along with that, you could also add in the Gigantomachia. It's just really good if they, get control of the board with a bunch of beefy guys. You can go ahead and clear them all out for 5 mana, a lot of value, and then send a bunch of people face, for that last final swing turn. Go ahead, if you like the video, give me a like, subscribe for more MythGARD content, and remember to always GG for Matt.